Good morning, greetings, and salutations. This is Passionate Bliss. I want to tell you about my walk through the Love Island streets, and in particular, what movie night revealed to me. Movie night revealed to me, first and foremost, is that the only reason we ever saw the real KC for who he was is that he did not know about the hidden cameras and the hidden mics. So that is why we were shocked to see the sudden switch up in the personality, because he didn't know it. And that's why he came back surprised at the reception that he got, because he didn't know that he was still being recorded and taped. He didn't know about the live stream of the heart rate contest. Corbin didn't know about it either. So they didn't know that information was being fed back to the girls or to America. So they were blindsided when they came in with that information, because they did not know about the hidden cameras and mics and about the footage that was sent back. That's the only reason that we got to see the real KC over in Casa and not at the villa. Okay. Also, people are excited because Casey gave his first apology unprompted for his behavior and the things that he had said on film at movie night. Well, the reason why Casey insisted on giving that apology, in spite of the fact that Aniya was saying, "No, you're good, bro. You're good, bro. I don't need to hear it." She didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to hear from him at all, and which is a good thing. And so, but he insisted on making that apology because it wasn't actually to Aniya. That apology was to America. Because you can see, and I'm going to try to find the pictures, you can see the moment when he realized that all of his nasty comments had been heard by America. And you can see the moment when he realized, I've lost that money. Because for some reason, he still thought he had a chance at getting that money. Because and I guess he would have thought that safely had not all his nasty comments been recorded. Because without the nasty comments at Casa, Casey left winning the show. And he could have possibly sold us a romance story with him and TT. And so he didn't think until that moment that he had lost the show. But we knew he lost the show by the time he left Casa. He's just realizing that. So his apology was not to Aniya. His apology was to America. And he said in particularly that let me know that. He said it's not a good look. So he knows what he looks like to America now. Then he said, I painted a bad picture for myself. So he knows how bad he looks to America. And he said there was some good in there. He's want to remind America there was some good in there. And I want to apologize to all of you guys. He meant to all of us in the voting audience. That's what he meant. So his apology, unprompted, was never for Aniya. It was for us. And, well, I'm sorry, but once somebody shows me who they are, I believe them. And America is going to remember that. We've been sitting with who you are for quite some time, so this little apology here was never going to work. My other takeaway from movie night was, well, you all's takeaway from movie night was, why was everybody willing to jump on KC and nobody jumped on Sincere? Some of you have implied that it's because of Sincere not being a black male. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that the reason why they jump on KC and not on Sincere is for two different reasons. Two different things. Number one, they're taking their cues from the woman that's affected. Aniya has presented herself, for the most part, as somebody who is very ladylike and mild-mannered. Except with Casey, because Casey gets on her nerves because he really has no business in her presence. He's not in the same class as her. So Aniya has in general presented herself amongst her friends and her peers in this villa as somebody who's very mild-mannered, who is soft-spoken, who is ladylike. Melanie described her as a grand lady whose self-control she would like to emulate one day. That's how they think of Aniya. So they don't believe that she's going to get him told the way he needs to be told. They don't believe that she's going to cuss him out the way he needs to be cussed out. So they, as her friends, have taken it upon themselves to speak for her when they don't need to. And they really shouldn't. But they don't feel like it's fair that he gets to get away scot-free because she's too sweet to check him the way he needs to be checked. So I feel they're taking their cues from her. Now, Melanie, because she was smoothed out. Melanie looked like she would throw hands. Melanie has shown that she will get, as far as her relationship with Sincere, she will give as good as she gets. And if you cheat on me, I'm going to cheat back. Oh, you want to pull Kata? I'm going to start pulling Casey, and I'm going to pull. And so that's the tone that Melanie has set for herself amongst the women. And so they don't need to fight for Melanie. She'll fight her own battles. And also, Melanie has let them know that she wants Sincere. She's going to keep forgiving him and keep forgiving him. He's probably going upstairs to kiss Saul, and I'm going to forgive him for that. So when your friend has set that standard for you, you know not to jump in her mess with her and Sincere, because she's going to go back to him no matter what he does anyway. And if you trash him, she's going to end up mad at you, and you're going to lose the friendship. So just stay out of it. That is the tone and the precedent that Melanie has set with her and Sincere. And so I think a lot of the men who are saying that it's because of his race is because they're not aware of the dynamics of female friendships when your friend has a man that you don't like. So if you come against that man and attack him while she still wants him, they're going to turn on you. So the women are not so apt to jump up for Melanie. Because Melanie has consented to this kind of relationship with Sincere. Aniya did not consent to be lied to and deceived and love bombed and gaslit. She never consented to that. So this is him snatching the rug out from under her and snatching the rug out from under them. He was the mom and pop. They were the mom and dad of the villa, grandma and grandpa of the villa. And so when he snatched the rug out from under her, he snatched it out from under them as well. So I will say that Ghetto TT did say that y'all were going to be mad no matter who he brought back. That is correct. That is correct. As much as I hate to admit it, those are things that I hate to admit. Matter of fact, I'll go back to that later. But I wanted to go back on why they jumped KC but did not jump Sincere. So they taking their cues from the woman that's involved. And some of your friends need you to stand up for them, and some of them don't. So they feel like they're standing up for the one who needs to be stood up for, which is Aniya. And then, let me see. What else? I had a second opinion on that, but I don't remember it right now. But anyway, I feel like that's part of the reason. And then, also another thing I don't want to admit. Okay, I remember the second part. The second part for why they didn't jump Sincere and why they jumped Casey, because they were responding to the switch up in Casey. They're disappointed with the switch up and the pain that he caused Aniya and the way he treated her afterwards. So that's why they jumping him here now at movie night again, but not jumping Sincere. They had already figured out by then that, he was pretending to like her when he didn't. Okay. And so with Sincere, he liked Melanie, Melanie liked him. They all knew that. This is a dance they're going to do for quite some time, where he cuts up, she forgives him. He cuts up, she forgives him. After a cussing out, she forgives him. She takes him back. But so when they saw, we knew the extent of Sincere's deception. We knew that Sincere was a piece of crap. We knew that Sincere was the most dishonest thing in that building. But they didn't know the extent of Sincere's deception. The level of deception, him telling the same exact sentiment and words and behaviors and actions with identical women, borders on sociopathic, narcissistic, whatever the buzzword terms are for this kind of behavior, where he's got to have that supply from whatever woman is in his face that he desires. Well, he's got to get that supply. He's got to have that woman, all over him and into him, and, just feeding his ego, feeding, his desires. He does it with every woman that he's in contact with, that he's alone with, that he desires, you know, and he gives them the same output and gets the same, intake from them. That's borderline sociopathic, and they didn't know that about him. They thought he was a good guy who just, does too much with the women. And also, they felt like his behavior with Saul was get back at Melanie for carrying on in the bed with Corbin. So they didn't know the extent to which he was going in private. They knew he was, bringing Saul in her face, but they didn't know the extent to which in private that he was love bombing Saul. Exact same way he was love bombing Melanie. And that shocked them. That stunned them. The same pet names. This is really where I want to be. This is what I want. They were stunned to the point that even Casey and Corbin, who showed in Casa what real pigs they actually are, even they were stunned. Casey had the nerve to say this is wrong. They didn't realize they were living with a sociopath for 3 weeks. They didn't realize they were living with a pathological liar for 3 weeks. Because if someone will lie to the extent that he was lying and love bombing to Saul and then send her home and say Melanie is where I always wanted to be, he is most likely lying to all of them. They know that they can't believe him anymore. They know that they can't trust him anymore. Because if he will say those things to 2 different women and then send them home and not mean it, then how much of what he has said to them can they trust? Do he actually really like them? Melanie should be asking herself, well, if he's lying to her, how do I know he's not lying to me now? To stay on this show, just like Casey lied to Aniya just to stay on this show. He might be going to do me the same way when I get home. Melanie should be thinking that because he told us the exact same lies. At least Casey didn't do that. He's the worst villain in here. And they're just finding out this guy's a villain. So they are actually sitting in stunned silence. I don't think it's not about his race. It's not about, Casey being a black man, doing the best he can. It's not about that. They are stunned to see who he really is. The boys can't save him or rescue him in any way. They don't even want to be associated with him. Even the way Bryce was sitting there looking at him like, who is this sitting beside me? Who is this? When you're a liar like that, which is why I get rid of people immediately when I see that they're liars. When you're dealing with a liar, you don't know what's real. You don't know who they actually are. You can never know who they really are because they lie. What was it? You examine every conversation, every interaction. What was the lie? What was the truth? Was the whole thing a lie? Is there a bigger lie behind that lie? It's too much work and too much mental gymnastics when you're dealing with somebody who lies on a scale of that magnitude. They are sitting in stunned silence, realizing they don't know who this is at all. We thought we were a family, a close-knit group. We don't know who this is sitting in this room with us. So that's the reason why I feel like they were willing to jump KC, who they think has just behaved badly, versus Sincere, who they don't even know who he is anymore. So, and that's the males and the females. So I think that that's the actual reason why. Now, this is the part that I said, these are things I don't want to admit about movie night. Aniya's outburst. That was badly done. It's badly done. It felt good in the moment, I know. Because Casey continues to aggravate her. He brings out the worst in her. And this is more of an example. They are not well suited. They were never well suited. When she said, you good, bro, you good, I don't need no apology, he should have left it at that. But he couldn't, and he didn't, because the apology was not for her, it was for us. If he'd have done that, they would have moved past this. But, he aggravates her because she still feels the hurt and the embarrassment and the humiliation, because when he did this to her, this was only a couple of days ago. So it's still raw, and she has been pushing it down so she can get along and get by. And she's redirecting her interest and her focus towards Carl, which is great. She don't even want to talk to him no more. So I was good and happy with that. But because he insisted on the apology, and he still came back and tried to justify why he didn't come and talk to her after Casa. So I think he's had a few days to think of a good reason for why he didn't come to her and talk to her after Casa when she was upset, the same way he came up to Soul when she was upset and say, at least, hey, I know you're upset. I do want to talk to you when you're not upset. We all know the reason he didn't do that is because he didn't give a damn that she was hurt, that she was on the floor crying. That's what he intended to do when he came back with this girl. He said over there in Casa, we're going to break hearts. He came back there to break her heart. He wanted to see her broken and crying and on the floor. He was laughing about it. That's the reason he didn't talk to her. He wanted her destitute and lonely and thirsty for him, and grateful that he was coming to talk to her by the time he came back around, because he was always going to come back around. So, but that's how he wanted her. But because Carl was there, she wasn't, embarrassed anymore and ashamed and destitute and lonely and suffering and in pain, because now she got Carl to distract her. So he didn't like, so that's why he looked the way he looked when Carl came back, in my opinion. He looked annoyed that Carl was back. And so, he thought he had come up with a good excuse for why he didn't talk to her. I couldn't talk to her. You had an army of people in front of her, and TT would be standing alone. I was being noble for TT and supporting TT. You all had attacked her. Nobody attacked TT. TT insert herself into an attack on him. And so he tried to come up with some more propaganda and BS, and that triggered Aniya again. And she said, don't stand up there like you noble and proud when you not. You not noble and proud. You somebody who saw me crying in tears and laughed at me. And so he triggered her, because he always triggered her, because he has no business in her presence. He's not fit to wipe the bottom of her shoe off. So this is a case of a man bringing out the worst in a good woman. That's what this is. And I'm safe to say that Casey is the issue, because Casey has now been involved with two women, and they have both had the same response to him. He gaslights them and love bombs them so hard that they think he's totally satisfied with them. And then he wants to go and dibble around in their faces. Then he wants to go and explore in their faces. And they're thinking, why do you want to explore? I've given you all. Casey with Aniya, she got mad because he wanted to explore. And what did TT do? After she done let him rub and play up all on her all night long, and he wanted to swap her out in the bed the next day, she was like, what? You want to sleep with somebody else? He got the exact same response from two different women. The common denominator is Casey. Aniya, however, has been with two men. One man, she has to tell him, stop laughing when I'm talking to you. You're pissing me off. Quit making faces. Why do you want to explore? And, and quit touching on me so much. You freaked out. That's her response to KC. What's her response to Carl? Her response to Carl is, he's so sophisticated. He was perfect. I'm the happiest I've been in the villa. She ain't nagged Carl not one time, because he's on her level. That's the kind of man she's supposed to be with. That's the kind of man she normally know. He's from her socioeconomic background. They think the same. They talk the same. He knows how to communicate with her. Even he was telling her in Soul Ties, I got my walls up. His hand was on her thigh the entire time. And she knew the walls wasn't that high and they wasn't that thick. So she knew that. And he was trying to signal, when he said, I got my walls up and I don't want to be a pick-me, that was his coded language, because I'm close to their socioeconomic class. That was his coded language to tell her, I'm not about to chase you if you're going to continue to run behind KC. That was his coded language. But once he got in there and he saw that she was off of KC completely, which, because he knows her because they're in the same class, He said on After Sun, when they said, well, he might want to talk to Casey again, he said, oh no, that's over. Because he knows women like Aniya is not going to be humiliated like that on public TV and go back to him. But when he got back, he was letting her know, I'm not a pick-me and my walls are up. Which means I'm not going to do this if you about to chase this man too. She received the message. She's in bed. She said, fuck KC. When she was in that bed. Okay? So he's getting a different reaction from her. They'll say, oh, she never liked Casey because she all up on Carl, and she was never all up on Casey because Casey was irritating her every step of the way, and he was also signaling her intuition that this guy don't really like me like that. But Carl, when he was talking to her, okay, let me just take that one instance. Well, every instance, when Carl was talking to her, he always has his hand on her. That's tactile. He's releasing, endorphins, dopamine when he's touching her. And when he was in the room with her and they were talking and she had on the little bodysuit number, he was rubbing her thigh the entire time, asking her, what do you want to do if you had no money? What would you do? That's the kind of conversation that intellectual people have with each other. Just casual talk, If there was no money, what would you do? Mentally stimulating her. A lot of women like Aniya are turned on by mental stimulation. Casey just shoves women down and jump on them. Or they say, can I have a kiss? That's not a woman to stimulate. You have to stimulate them mentally first. Corbin saying, can I have a kiss? It's not going to work for them. Didn't work for Kata. Didn't work for Melanie. Only worked for Mackenzie. Women that require mental stimulation to get their attraction going, you have to be able to get that out of them mentally first. Then the physical follows. Carl would talk to her about nothing. Then he was rubbing her thigh the whole time. Her leg is up on him. He's rubbing her leg and her thigh the whole time. So he's warming her up mentally and physically at the same time. He's warming her up because he knows how to handle intellectual women. Casey does not. He shoved the second girl, he shoved her down. Titi said, oh, you can explore me. He shoved Titi down on her back and got on top of her. The other girl, he said, okay, let me get a second kiss. He shoves her on the bed, gets on top of her. I don't doubt that he shoved Aniya on the bed and got on top of her at some point, and she had to tell him to get off of her. He's already done it twice. Why don't think he did it with Aniya first? That's probably when she had to talk about him touching her like that, because they have had a talk about it. So Carl is there warming her up, chit-chatting, stimulating her mentally, stimulating her physically. And by the time she got to staring in his face and looking in his eyes and he looking in her eyes, she jumped up on his lap. They lean forward for the kiss. Half the time with Carl, she's reaching for the kiss. Now, she did that at first with KC, that first few night or so. When they were in Soul Ties or wherever they were that first night, they were talking. And she was reaching for the kiss. He said, okay, that was a good kiss. And she was reaching for him too at first. He turned her off. Carl turns her on because he knows how to do it. So those who are saying, oh, she never liked him, she did like him, but he turned her off because he don't have the skill set to deal with a woman like Aniya. He needed a woman like Titi he can shove down. Carl has the skill set to deal with a woman like Aniya, and for that reason, Carl is getting a different response than Casey got because he's a different man and he's in her league and he knows how to handle her. She will never yell in Carl's face the way she yelled in Casey's face. So nobody's disagreeing that Casey was wrong to get somebody else. He was right. He was wrong to lie to her because he could have told her that, I feel like we're not really compatible. They could have had a friendship couple. There have been many instances on Love Island where people have agreed that we're going to be in a friendship couple. And best of luck to whoever meets somebody first. But had he explored with Saul, he would have been off that show because we would have sent him out of there because Aniya is the favorite one in the couple. Aniya is the sweetheart. Aniya is the villa mom. They would send Casey home before they sent Aniya home. That was always the case. She's the most popular one in that couple. I don't know why the men think they're going to be the most popular one. Well, that's not true because Cordell was more popular than Serena. But that's because he was so sweet. And he was not egotistical in any way. But typically, it's the woman. And in this case, Aniya was a sweetheart in a relationship. So he realized that and he played it safe until he got to Casa. But let me see if there's anything else about this movie night that I wanted to say, anything else that I missed. Um but yeah, the thing I didn't want to admit that she was out of pocket for going in his face. I don't think she was out of pocket for standing up because he stood up. I don't think she was out of pocket for advancing on him. Well, she really shouldn't have advanced on him. But once she advanced on him and he sat down, she should have retreated at that point. But she continued to holler and yell in his face because she haven't forgot how he laughed at her while she was crying. It was still raw. It still hurt. I feel like he deserved that. It made me feel good to see her do it. But it was inappropriate. She shouldn't have done it. And I hate that she did that because that's out of her character. That's not her character. That's not who she's been on this show consistently. I don't think that's who she is in real life. I think she surprised everybody. I don't think anybody thought that she had that in her. But it was not a good look. But I'm going to give her grace because he humiliated her publicly and it's still raw. It's only been 2 days. Her level of self-control at this point has been admirable. That's all I got. With that being said, y'all have sweet dreams. Wait to find them real. And I guess I will see you tonight in the villa for part 2 of movie night.